Fight Boxing is here with Carlos Palomino. Carlos, how'd you get your start in boxing?
What was that?
How'd you get your start in boxing?
I actually started boxing in the Army. I was drafted in 1970, and I joined a boxing gym just to get in shape for basic training. And while I was there, one of the coaches took interest in me and talked to me about boxing. I said, well, I don't even want to fight. I'm going in the Army. I'm just getting in shape. And then he told me, you know, you can box, and there's a boxing team in the Army. You could probably, if you get enough experience now, you can try out for the boxing team in the Army. And because I know a couple of guys who boxed in the Army, and they never, you know, that's all they did. They didn't have to go to combat, and Vietnam was still going on. So he started working with me, trained with me, and I had two smokers before I went in the Army, and then I went in, did my basic training in Fort Ord, went to Fort Hood in Texas, and when I got there in June of 1970, they were starting the Fort Hood Boxing Championship, so I joined, and I ended up winning the tournament, which was a big shock to me because I had two smoker bouts under my belt, and I won it. They sent me to another tournament called the 4th U.S. Army Championships. I won that. They sent me to the All-Army Championship, and I won that tournament. And so, and I knew right there that I had kind of a God-given talent, you know, that was just natural for me. And so that's how I started.
And do you remember your first boxing match against Javier Martinez? Do you remember that match?
Oh, first professional bout, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely do. It was supposed to be a 6-round fight. I was the last fight of the night. I was what they call the crowd chaser. And I remember coming out, and people were walking out of the arena. They were walking out of the Olympic Auditorium. And I remember seeing my mom, my dad, and my brothers, and my uncles. They were pretty much the only people left. And I got in there. It was supposed to be a 6-round fight. But the ref came over and said, listen, man, it's late. We're going to cut it to 4. Knock this guy out. Let's get out of here. You know? And I ended up going 4 rounds. I won a decision. I remember, yeah.
And throughout your career, who was your toughest opponent?
You know, a lot of people don't believe this. I tell them. I think that my toughest opponent was when I was an amateur. In 1971, I was fighting in the finals of the Pan American Trials, and I fought a guy named Norman Goins from Indianapolis, and that guy was the hardest punching fighter I ever fought. He dropped me 3 times, once every round. I dropped me in the first round, dropped me in the second round, dropped me in the third round. But, you know, as an amateur, I learned to fight the Olympic style of points, you know, so I was landing maybe 6 to every one of his punches. If that had been a professional fight, I would have lost. They might have been stopped, you know, but I ended up winning the fight because I landed more punches as you know, I pointed him, and but I mean, every time that guy hit me, it hurt. And I kept an eye on him. He turned pro, and I think he went to like about 12, 13, 14 and 0. And I was keeping an eye on him because he was the same weight division that I was. And then all of a sudden I just disappeared. I stopped hearing about him. I don't know what happened to him. But he just kind of took a nosedive after about 14 and 0.
And who was the hardest hitting professional fighter you ever faced?
Well, you know, one of the hardest fight I had as a professional was a 15-round fight against Armando Muniz. The first fight with him, my first title defense, and he dropped me in the first round. And the inside fighting that guy could do was just amazing. Actually, I learned a lot from him because then after that I became more of a body puncher because I understood, you know, what that does to an opponent. Because Mondo was just unbelievable. I mean, he was in my chest for 15 rounds. So I think Armando Muniz is one of the hardest punching welterweights that I ever fought.
And what would you say was the biggest win of your career?
Winning the title, of course, and winning the title in London, England, when I was a 10-1 underdog. No one expected I had a shot at winning that fight. In fact, nobody from the United States went to cover the fight to London. Nobody from Mexico went to cover the fight. None of the media went to, because they didn't expect. They thought I was going to get slaughtered, you know. And I ended up, you know, knocking John Strachan in the 12th round. and became the welterweight champion of the world. That's undeniably the best time of my life, man.
And besides winning the title, what was other proud moment you had in the ring?
I think going the distance with Duran, because even though when they offered that fight, I was absolutely 100% sure I was going to win that fight, that I was going to beat him, and a lot of people, even right to my face, kept telling me that he was going to knock me out. Especially when I went to New York, the last 2 weeks I trained in New York prior to the fight. I mean, all the fan base there was the Duran fan base. They kept just yelling at me in the ring when I was in the ring sparring. Hey, te va a noquear, te va a noquear. So going the distance. I mean, if I had won that fight, it would have been better. But just the fact that it was a war, a 10-round war, and I stood with them toe to toe. That was a proud moment.
And who's the one fighter that you would have liked to fight that you never got a chance to fight?
Well, I would have loved to have gotten a rematch with Roberto Benitez. Where I fought in Puerto Rico, and I thought I won the fight, but they gave him the fight in his hometown. And then I was promised a rematch, and they never gave it to me. So I would have loved to have gotten that rematch somewhere outside of Puerto Rico. And another, of course, I was right at the cusp. I retired in 1979 at the age of 30. Everybody said, "Why are you retiring? You're still really young." And Ray Leonard was on the way up. In fact, right after I lost the title to Benitez in Puerto Rico, he lost it to Ray Leonard. So I would have loved to have had a fight with Ray Leonard. That would have been something that would have been amazing. I think.
That would have been great.
Yeah, because I think that I would have fought him exactly the way Duran fought him in the first time. And nobody ever was in better shape than me when I fought 15 rounds. I knew every time I stepped in the ring, I knew that I was in better shape than my opponent, because that's the kind of work I did for all my fights.
So Sugar Ray Leonard would have been your dream fight?
Yeah, I would have, yeah. That would have been a big money fight too. I didn't make $1 million my whole career, and I made 7 title defenses. A fight with Ray Leonard would have gotten me probably $5 million,
And you train boxers now, so what advice would you have for some amateur boxers or young boxers coming up? What would be your best advice you could give to them?
Well, yeah, it's what I tell my kids, that I train now. I have a kid that's 17, just turned 17. He won the Junior Olympics last year in California, won the Diamond Bell tournament. These guys, and what I tell him all the time, it's always in the individual's responsibility to be in shape. Listen to your coach. Do the work in the gym. Do the work in the road work. Do the road work. Because it's most of the time it's 60% physical, 40% mental, and so I try to install that kind of ferocity in a fighter that he's going to be committed to the training, be committed to the fighting, and leave everything else outside that arena alone. Girlfriends, it's just hard for a 17-year-old kid, right? But I know, to keep your family and the sport in your heart and your soul.
And my last question is, what would you say to all the fans, family, and friends that have supported you all these years and still show you love to this day?
It's just much appreciated. Like my father always said, pay attention to boxing fans and to people. Live your life right, because people are looking up to you. And so that's what I try to do. I try to be humble. Try to be there for fans whenever they ask for a chat, for an autograph, for a picture. Always be there, because without them, athletes wouldn't have careers.
Exactly. And you heard it here from legend Carlos Palomino, 805 Boxing News. Yeah.
All right, thank you.